Alright, back into customs, and today we're going to look at a build that I recorded over the weekend. It took a lot of efforts to get a usable run, because this one is kind of complicated and definitely unnecessarily complicated, but sometimes those are the best runs to go for. So what we're going to do today is try and build a team around flying fish, but we want the flying fish to be dazed. Now, dazed is an ailment, which means that your ability does not work. And there are a few pets where it's kind of obvious why you would want to daze them. You know, maybe you could play Mantis in a 5 squad and then not have it faint anything. I'm not sure I've actually seen anyone do that. You can also use it for farming achievements. So for instance, if you want to get the achievement for Pygmy Seahorse, for instance, or Moby Dick, both of which removed themselves from the game at the start of battle, you can put dazed on them and it will stop that happening. You can also use it to get the Bonobo achievement. I think I've seen a few people in customs going for that. But today the idea I wanted to explore was using dazed to control how pets that have limited numbers of triggers use those triggers. So the two pets that I was thinking about were Flying Fish and Amalgamation. Maybe this would have actually been a bit easier to go for if I'd used Amalgamation, but at least Flying Fish is tier 3, so we can get the dazed onto it pretty easily at the beginning, rather than having to wait for the Umbrella Bird late on. So we've got the Umbrella Bird already, and then we roll into Flying Fish. I'm just going to sell the Guinea Pig and get the Flying Fish into the team immediately. So the idea is to have multiple summons on the team, but we don't want the first summon to take the buff from Flying Fish. We want it to be used on something more valuable further down the summon chain. And we can also kind of cheat the fact that we have dazed here to try and maintain hearts in the early turns. You can use white-bellied heron, which will put meatbone onto the flying fish and replace the dazed, so we can still get the ability in battle. It does kind of defeat the purpose of having dazed at this point, but I was finding that a lot of runs were just getting absolutely ruined because the flying fish would do nothing for too many turns. Actually, here we get lucky facing a dolphin because my lineup was incorrect. We would have wasted an ant there, but fortunately we get away with it thanks to Triple D. And then we'll take the potato on the skunk. Now there were a couple of different versions of this that I kept adjusting the pack to try and make this easier on myself because it was so awkward. I was really starting to lose the plot. And I think it really kind of shows you that when you're going for these types of odd teams, you need to give yourself the best chance possible by having multiple different versions that you can go for. So initially the build was supposed to be hedgehog at the front, and then koala, and then everything else would have potato, so when the hedgehog faints, nothing takes damage except the flying fish. And then the koala would heal the flying fish with the eucalyptus, and we could carry on with the summons from there. Now I'll show a clip of that at the end. It was a bit more awkward than the final version that I came up with here. You know, it makes more sense to have as many different ways to make the final build in your pack as possible. And my success rate of getting to the end game definitely increased significantly after I added more options to the pack. So yeah, hedgehog was the original goal, but there are some other pets that we can use. I'm not sure if it's showed up in the shop yet, but firefly is another one. And then the pet that we're actually going to go for in the end is the strongest version of a self-damaging pet, and that is small one. I guess we could have gone for a great one as well, but yeah, small one is much easier since you can just buy it in the shop. We get an incredible Gelada turn. I feel like I just commentated the other day saying how reliant I am on Gelada. Definitely the case for going for an odd team like this. You need that extreme boost of stats over a very short period, and then the scaling just disappears. So we're trying to win as soon as we possibly can. And then also having the level 2 Gelada gives us a slim chance of transforming into another skunk, so we can get the level 3 for cheap. But I don't think that actually happens in this game. So I put a mammoth into the beluga, and we actually get the double crane and shop, which is incredible. So yeah, talking about, adding redundancy to your pack to make it easier to actually get specific teams. There can be times where you look at the team and you think it's going to be fairly easy to get. You're only looking for at most 5 different pets. However, as soon as you introduce beluga to the equation, then you can be looking for more than 5 pets. And in this case, we are looking for 7 pets. I guess we're looking for double beluga, so we can actually use Bonobo to remove that requirement. Bonobo is such a strong unit. I think there's probably a lot more crazy stuff you can do with Bonobo that just hasn't been discovered yet. So we get the small one into the front beluga, and then the idea is to put popcorn with some other high tier unit inside the second beluga. So the small one should appear. We'll see it work here, although we don't have enough summons yet. So the flying fish takes damage, which means that its ability will go off when the mammoth gets summoned. And if we can just add popcorn, then we'll get 2 level ups from the flying fish, and it didn't waste its trigger on the small one. Now here I give up on the level 3 skunk because I really need to find the popcorn. I guess I could have put Yggdrasil fruit or something, but I was hoping that it would be a fun unit that gets summoned, like Rhino or Stonefish. I'm trying to think what the other tier 5s were in this pack. Nurikabe there. Probably could have curated the list a bit better, but here we decide to deliberately throw. Sometimes that can be difficult when you have skunk here, but luckily the octopus has just enough attack there to knock out the flying fish. I wonder if we would have actually won there, or maybe just tied naturally. So we can get level 2 small one, and then I'm keeping the Sabertooth frozen because it's a decent summon target for the beluga. There is mushroom there, but I'd much rather have popcorn. There we go. So now we get the setup, we can rearrange. So small one comes out of the beluga, removes the dazed, and then we'll get the double summon. And then look at this, the opposing team has leopard. Luckily they completely missed the flying fish, otherwise it would have wasted the trigger on the small one. Unfortunately, it actually turned out to be flounder that we get from the popcorn. So you can see there my mouse cursor kind of went all over the place because I wasn't too happy about the RNG in the end there. Alright, now we can look at some of the extra clips. So this one is kind of bizarre. It looks like we have a pretty solid chance against this team. But the pygmy hippo is going to instantly kill the 2 cranes. And then the sawfish only has 1 HP left. And then here I get matched with Not a Game Devlog. He was playing for a... this was like an instant impact pack, so all tempo. And the Stego is going to give the Nurikabe huge stats, and we lose by 1 HP again, although he did have the faint bread left. And then this is one of my favourite rounds I've had recently, where we face Northern Wind here going for a very similar team to Rev one that I've featured in a video before. But the Takushi actually ends up allowing the flying fish to trigger twice there because it moved the heron to the front. And then lastly, here's one version of the original one. I don't even have Dazed here, I don't think, on the flying fish yet. There were lots of games where that happened. and it's another 1 HP loss. So let me know in the comments if you've got other ideas on how Dazed could be used. I still think it's a very underexplored technology.